Hello and welcome. We're back talking about the fifth episode of The Last of Us. I just got through watching it. I thought it premiered on Sunday this week, but apparently it must have been earlier in the week because it must have been like Friday or something that it premiered. But because I saw a lot of people already responding to it, I'm like, did it come out earlier this week? I'll have to check on that and see if that's what it's going to do next week as well. But episode 5, we come across oh God, what was his name? Was it Michael? Oh, what Michael? I forget what the older brother's name was, but he and his brother Sam turned out to be the two people we see at the end of episode 4. And we go into a little bit of a backstory just a few days before. Turns out the people of Kansas City turned against Fedra and finally won freedom from them in a bloody revolt. Um, and that woman became the leader because she leads the revolt. Now, it turns out that Fedra were not nice people in Kansas City. They talk about a lot of vile things that went down under Fedra's lead. And they're after the older brother and Sam. I cannot remember the older brother's name now. But it turns out they've been hiding for at least 10 days. And they were getting ready to sneak out. But on that day they were getting ready to sneak out, Joe and Ellie are ambushed, like we saw in the previous episode. Joe crashes. Well, Sam and his brother, uh, they change plans and they're like, all right, we'll set things up. And so they go back into hiding in the attic of the building they were hiding in, which also happens to be where Joe and Ellie end up going to. It may not have been the same building. Sam and his brother may have moved or went to that building that Joe and Ellie went hiding in. But anyway, they kind of catch them without Joe and Ellie without paying attention. They say, "Look, we don't want trouble, just help." Well, they end up putting guns down, and they're like, they talk a little bit. sit together, have a meal. Joe, of course, is still untrusting, but Ellie, being only a few years older than Sam, who is mute and deaf, they get along. And Sam ends up kind of in a chuckle, and his brother goes, it's been a long time since I've heard that, because Sam and Ellie are getting along so well. But they work out a plan to sneak out. They're going through some maintenance tunnels that will lead them under the highways into a residential area. Once they go into the residential area, all they have to do is go over a hill, and they should have safety and be able to go where they need to go. They go through the tunnels. Everything's quiet, but it is empty. They get out into the residential area, and they're talking about what to do next. And Joe offers, no, it isn't that he offers, but Ellie mentions they're going to Wyoming. And uh, the older brother, he's like, that's all right. It's probably best we had a parting of the ways after all this. But as they're heading down the street, suddenly you hear a shot ring out. Ping! They take cover. Every time you see Joe kind of peek up a little bit, ping! So someone has them pinned down with gunfire. Joe ends up making his way through the woods and gets to the house from where the shots are coming from. The guy who's doing the shooting don't know Joe is there, and Joe catches them off guard, and he says, because he's got a gun held at him, he's like, I need you to stop shooting, put the gun down, move it to me, and then just wait an hour so we can go. The guy hesitates, but then Joe's like, don't do it. Don't do it. The guy ends up pointing his gun at Joe, and Joe kills him before he can fully get it around on him. And Joe hears over the radio that the woman who leads the Kansas City area now, uh, she was trying to have the guy hold them in position. Apparently, yeah, they figured out they were headed that way, and she says over the radio, hold them there a little bit longer. We're almost there. So he's like, damn, they're on their way. They show up. Pin Ellie, Sam, and his older brother down. And they're out of the vehicles by this point because Joe killed the driver of this big old snowplow vehicle, and it crashes into the front of one of the houses and eventually catches fire in a spectacular explosion. Well, while this is while this woman is having the older brother come out, Henry was the name of the older brother. She's telling Henry, says, "Come out, Henry," and he whispers to Ellie and Sam. He's like, "I need you to go when I give myself up. You run." And so he comes out with his hands up. Ellie hesitates for a moment, and you can see they've got Henry covered. She's like, "I'm sorry it had to end this way, Henry." Now, what we find out is the reason she wants Henry dead, the reason she's so dead set on it, is because Henry, to save his brother Sam's life, had to turn somebody in to get the only medicine that would help Sam's leukemia. And the person he turns in is who he describes as a great man. Never got angry, always was kind, always forgave. But apparently he turned him into Fedra for the medicine. And that man was that woman's brother. And she's like, "He was such a good person." I'm not. Because you can see she's torn about it. She talks about, "He told me to forgive Henry. I can't." But anyway, we go back to her. She pulls the gun, faces him. About that time, the vehicle that had blew up starts creaking, and apparently it had opened a hole underneath it. And it creaks and slides into the hole. And all of a sudden, you hear a bunch of infected. They come out. Just, you know, huge swath of infected come rushing out of the hole. And so every one of the people there that has guns is just like spray and pray, trying to mow them down. This causes all this trouble because all these zombies are here. All the infected are there, and Ellie, Henry, and Sam make a break for it as they try to head through, get out of the way. Henry and Sam end up trying to take cover under a vehicle, and Ellie ends up finding her way to like a van where she sneaks into the back. She ends up having to leave because a tiny clicker comes in there, but yeah. But during this whole time, Joe's up in the window. He's trying to give cover. So he's giving cover fire. But yeah. Uh, but we hit a point where this giant infected comes out. I mean, it's like huge. If I'm not crossing up my two series, I think it was called a tank. Anyway, it's a huge infected. It looks like it's about 450 pounds, 6 foot six. Just one of these big barrel chested, bowling ball shouldered, just, and it starts tearing through everyone. And even her, like, top general, whatever the guy is, who's been kind of like following her and protecting her and trying to be a comfort to her and everything. He's like, "Go, run!" And he ends up getting caught by this thing. The thing just like grabs him by the head. Pop! They show it in the far background because, again, they don't want to be too graphic, but yeah. But she still can't let Henry, Sam, Ellie, and Joe go because they've reunited at this point. They're getting ready to head out over this hill. She's like, "Stop!" But the tiny clicker that was going after Ellie in the van appears to have come out, and it attacks her and just mauls her. But Henry, Sam, Joe, and Ellie end up getting away over the hill, and I guess it's like a hotel they find or whatever. Just uh, one you would kind of expect that one or two story place. It's got multiple rooms, but yeah, like roadside motel or hotel. They stay the night. Joe offers Henry. He says, "If you want to, you can come with us." Henry accepts the offer. By this time, Sam and Ellie are alone in their room, and they're talking real quiet and everything. And Sam talks about being scared because he's got this little write down erase board. Um, and they talk for a bit through it. She finds out he got bit. I think it was just out of a hope of desperation. She shows them that she was bit long ago. She's immune. She tries to slice open her hand, puts some of her blood on the wound. And he asks her to stay up with him. She does, but ends up passing out. So you catch her kind of waking up in the morning. And again, where he's sitting there on the bed, looking out the window. And where he's deaf, she can't hear him. Because she goes, you awake? She goes over, looks at him, and she taps him on the shoulder. He's no longer Sam. The infection got to him. Well, they fall out of the room into the room where Henry and Joe are staying. They both reach for a gun while she's trying to defend herself from Sam. Henry gets it first, shoots at Joe's feet. He's like, don't. And then he aims it at Sam and Ellie and just kills Sam. because it's that kind of reaction. You have to do something, or you know, someone dies. So it's kind of that split reaction type of moment. And so he's like, what did I do? What did I do? Sam. And he's looking back at Joe, Sam, who's dead. Back at Joe, Ellie, Sam. Fine. And, Joe all the time is like, give me the gun. Give me the gun. Henry takes the gun, puts it to his head. Boom. So, yeah, that's kind of a synopsis of the episode. Um, you have to feel for Joe. He loses his daughter when the infection breaks out. He spends 20 years just trying to survive. They get offered to take Ellie so they can get what they need for him and Tess to get out. Tess ends up passing away. One of the few friends he had, Bill and Frank, they end up having passed away, killed themselves. And then he loses Sam and Henry. But I think the next episode will even be more interesting. We finally get to see the reunion between Joe and his brother. But that will be the end of this particular video. I appreciate you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.